What's up, everyone, to another video, Full Speed Impulse, and today we're going to be talking about how to help you buy a dirt bike. That's right. Today we're just going to go through some details of what we do when we go to pick up a dirt bike. What are things that you should be looking for to help save that money in your pocket, whether it's helping repairs down the road or it's just helping to drive the price down on that guy that's offering way too much money. Here we go. As you guys may or may not know, we just picked up this KX 450F. One of the things we were looking was, well, we're looking for a deal, guys. Like everyone out there, we're looking for a deal. So first things first, guys, when you're looking for a bike, go and do your research. Make sure it's the horsepower specs. Make sure everything about the bike kind of is what you want. Look up as far as the information of the specs of when the bike was first made. Look at other years that surround it. Maybe even look at maybe issues that bike had that you're like, maybe it was a lemon for those years. And you definitely don't want to pick up no lemon. That's going to be a no bueno situation. When it comes down to 450s, what we looked at was that this range of bike here, this is a 2011, was when they started peaking and making good horsepower. This bike here makes almost 55 horsepower, and they haven't ranged too much higher since then. Now, the power curve has ranged differently. This bike here actually has it peaks on horsepower closer to 8,000 to 9,000 RPM, while the newer 450s peak past the 10,000 RPM, which that means this is going to give us more mid-low range grunt, which you're going to really get that no matter what with a stock 450 until you start messing with cams, head, blah, blah, blah. That being said, we knew that 2011 was going to be good. Now, here's the deal. Trying to find a 2011 that hasn't been completely beat, because you know with the 450s at least is that this is a race motor. So these motors here have so many hours to put in them, and then they're a ticking time bomb. While if you look at some of your other bikes and all that, which this is, again, guys, if you're looking for a bike like a KLX 110L, a CRF50, CRF 110, or even, we got here a little CT70, these motors here are more like, as I would say, tractor motors. They're not high horsepower motors, and they can take a lot of hours of abuse. So when you're looking at stuff like that, that's to be said, if you were to go on one of these bikes and they're already smoking or something like that, or something's not right with the motor, that should be a red warning sign right there, is because there's so many hours on that stuff, is that it's been beaten. Now, if you're looking for something that's been beaten, then just make sure you're paying the right price. This bike here claimed 30 to 40 hours with no hour meter, and even if the guy has an hour meter on there, don't take that to be necessarily true on the hours, because you don't know when he put that hour meter on. Now, the motor puffs a little smoke out on first fire up, and then it seems to clear up fine. It is fuel injected, so it's not a fuel issue. It is definitely burning a little bit of oil. We were okay with that because we already know the deal. He says, and we had to trust his word on that, is that the motor has never been gone through. So the first thing I did is I went and looked at the bolts and see if any of them were stripped a little bit or just kind of looked like they had wear from a socket being on them. I did not see anything personally. That doesn't mean that maybe they were just really careful. But regardless, this being stock plastic, stock graphics, as far as the Kawasaki part and all that, not the number plates, that shows me right there that the bike has maybe not been truly abused. Original seat cover with minimal wear. That's a good sign. I believe those might even be original tires. So that was also the good to see that. They hadn't been completely worn down yet. Now the guy told me, which makes me laugh, and I corrected him when he got there. You know, we were just being nice and all that. But he's like, it's never been track ridden. It's only been, you know, ridden in the fields and all that. I'm like, dude, that's like the worst thing you could tell me. Because it's a 450. Chances are, unless you're a really good rider, you're not beating on that 450 on the track. Now, granted, he could have been on the track laying the bike down, tweaking the radiators and all that stuff. Obviously, we scoped that out. Chassis could even be, you know, bent, cracked and all that from being on the track, beating it hard. But that field is tough on the motor because anyone can use a 450 in the field because you're just wide open on that thing. Same with the sand dunes. We're big sand dunes people. 450, and when I'm on the track, I ain't using all that power. Not even close, that's for sure. But on the sand dunes, you better believe I could let that 450 rip. And it's just completely different, you know, aspects. And it's a lot more abuse on that motor because you're way more higher RPMs. Track, even if you are a decent rider on the 450, you're on the pipe, then you're off the pipe, going through turns and all that stuff. While on the dunes, you just cracked it. You're just cracking that thing wide open and just ripping. So that being said, I wasn't too worried about it because we're mechanically inclined a little bit, I'd like to say. So when the time comes this winter, we're gonna throw a new piston and rings in it. No big deal, check our valves, and we'll be on our way. So also, this being said, how mechanically inclined are you? Are you paying someone to do it? Because that's gonna get costly and that's gonna add up quick. So make sure that you're thinking about stuff like that when you're purchasing something, because you don't wanna buy something that's gonna have some issues. Then you're gonna have to start and pay someone to work on this thing. And then you could just bought yourself a newer, better, fresher bike. You know what I mean? I like to think if you are looking to put an aftermarket exhaust on whatever you are buying, especially when you get into bigger stuff like this, it is so good if you can find a bike that already has that exhaust on there, because it doesn't drive the price up normally on the bike, depending on, you'll see those bikes that are high up in price, and those guys are definitely equating the price of their pipe on that price tag. But we were lucky with this one. This thing here has over $1,000 exhaust system on it. I mean, that was a win when we got this bike, because that right there was like cha-ching, $1,000 I don't have to spend on exhaust, because I already know me and I'm gonna get an exhaust. And just making sure this one does take the spark arrestor, which was a big thing for us going to the dunes. Big cost savings there. Another big cost savings too, and kind of tells you some history of the bike, is first thing, if you don't have a dirt bike stand, or the guy you're buying from doesn't have a dirt bike stand, get a dirt bike stand. You're going to want one anyways. Buy a dirt bike stand, bring it with you. Throw that bike on the stand, because what you're going to want to look for is a nice straight wheel. That was money. As soon as we seen that these wheels were straight, we're like, boom. That's, again, a huge cost savings, because now either you're going to deal with the bike going weeble-wobbling all down the road, or you're going to have to cost, or you're going to have to pay the money to get new wheels, which that's going to add up too. Last thing you want to do is go look at a bike and the guy's like, oh, it's been barely ridden and all that. Like, I'm really easy on it and all that. Like, I just rode it down the road. Let my daughter ride it. Yeah, I don't believe you. You know what I mean? Other key factors, if you can look at the oil, seeing how dirty the oil is. The guy just said he replaced the air filter on this, new chain and sprockets. That was good. Check for leaky fork seals. Not very costly to have that stuff fixed, but it is still something to look at. These are things you just want to look at. Also, when you do your bars, you want to look at how they fall to the left and right. You don't want it to fall too quick, but the biggest thing you're looking for is you want to feel it. You want to feel those bearings in there. And if it feels gritty or like it like stops on you, that's no bueno. Again, you have to do bearings and steering stem. Which again, not a big deal, but hey, everything costs money. This had aftermarket bars on it already, which was cool. Negative side on this bike was these levers, because they are SZWs, Amazon specials. Not a big fan. I would have rather had the OEMs on here, because I don't know. We'll see how those hold up. We're gonna run them till they break, but who knows? They might break on the first turn. So obviously, the biggest thing too is also looking at your chassis. Make sure you look that chassis up, down, underneath. Don't feel like you're being too weird or anything like that. Get in there. Make sure you look at that chassis. Make sure you don't see any cracks, nothing that spells that something has been tampered with. Even look at the bolts. The bolts will tell you a lot about a bike too. This bike here, look at that, all clean OEM bolts. Big deal, because you start getting into a bike it's got Ace Hardware bolts in it, which I do have a couple bikes that has some more of a Ace Hardware bolt in it. So not trying to dog on myself, but that will again show you how much the bike has been gone through and all that stuff. Brake pads aren't really a big deal, but we did check on brake pads. This thing had really good brake pads on it, front and rear. Check the coolant, and he actually is running engine ice in here, so that's cool. That's cool. Nothing wrong with that. And like I had said before, guys, make sure those radiators are nice and straight. They're not tweaked, bent. Look for drips, obviously. Coolant leaking, especially engine oil and all that. We did come, and the bike had a little bit of drip on the ground, but we had noticed that he'd recently oiled his chain, so we seen that it was just the oil dripping from the chain. So once we got everything cleaned up, everything's good. And even if it was dripping back here, you just take the sprocket off and there's a seal back here and it's probably C-clipped in. Not a bad job, but still, again, something to add in on if you're trying to knock that price down. Looking for wear on the cases. Now this is debatable because just because it's not worn really heavy doesn't mean that the bike hasn't been ridden a lot. It just means that maybe he was just wearing tennis shoes. When you wear riding boots, you guys know the deal. If you do, it wears on your side cases hard. So this bike having minimal side case wear, but he also looked like a tennis shoe rider. But other than that, guys, not too shabby. I think we did good on this bike when we picked it up, but that is definitely some of the big things we looked at when we're picking up a bike. I can go from all the way from looking at a 450 to looking at a little 50. So the last few tips, guys, is obviously when you go there, you want to make sure the bike is nice and cool or it hasn't been started. Seems pretty standard nowadays. Everybody knows the deal, but it's always good to remind the seller, don't start the bike. I don't care if it's hard starting cold. I just want to see how it starts and what's going on. Don't try to put one on me. Just let it be, and we're going to figure out what the deal is. Next thing is when you go to actually start the bike, even if it's electric start, not a bad idea if it's got a kickstart on it to give it a kick, test that compression out. That is kind of a thing with the newer bikes and all that. With that electric start, probably a little bit hard to tell how much compression's in. But great thing about the Kickstarter stuff is you'll be able to feel the compression. Now, if you're not used to multiple different bikes and all that, this could be hard to judge, but unless you're messing with 125, I think the 125 sometimes can throw you for a loop on how easy they are to kick. But it should have some good compression to it. And that, once you finally get the bike running, make sure you run it up to full temp, get it hot. It doesn't mean you have to be ripping down the road wide open or anything like that. Let the bike idle for a while. See how it does sitting and idling, that it doesn't just like go straight to overheat mode and then do your test runs and all that. Come back, shut the bike off, give it a couple seconds, and then instantly start the bike up again, because now you're going to want to see how the bike reacts when it's hot and how it starts. That will also tell you a lot about the compression and also how your valves are, if they need adjusted and all that, because that will also, if you had to have that head reworked, that gets pricey on a 450. All right, but that's probably all the tips I got for you guys. I hope this helps you out on your purchases. I don't like to see anyone get messed over, you know what I mean? So I hope you could take the little bit of info that I give you guys, whether you knew it or didn't know it. Either way, good luck on your guys' purchases. You got to know the deal. Until next time, we'll see you later.